So right now, the enemy is walking around, but we can't really do anything. We can't really interact or kill the enemy. So let's add that next. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go to actually the player blueprint, open that up, and we want to get this function called onLanded. And this basically runs when the player lands on something, whether it's the ground or another character. So this will be very useful for what we need right now. Here it will give us back a hit variable, which contains a lot of information. So we can drag this out and look for a break and hit enter. And this will basically give us a list of all the information about what we landed on. In our case, we want to check what we landed on. So we'll get the hit actor and we'll drag from this and cast to enemy. And this will basically check if it's the enemy blueprint. And we'll connect this. And for now, let's just put a print string here just to test this out. And by the way, you can close this if it's too big, and it will only show the variables we're using. So let's press save, compile, and press play. And now when we try to jump on him, we get the hello string in the top left corner. So next, we'll remove this and we'll save and compile, and we'll go back and open the enemy blueprint. What we want to do next is, let's first remove these because they're a little bit in the way. And let's type in a new custom event, and we'll call this defeated. And here, basically, for now, let's just call destroy actor, which will basically just destroy the actor, which is the enemy here. We'll save and compile, and we'll go back. And here, basically, because we cast to the enemy, we get two different outputs. This output will come out if it's true, and this will be if it's not true, and if it's not the enemy that we hit. And then if it is true, we actually get the reference for the enemy, and so we can run any function from it. So in this case, we'll run the defeated function that we just created, and we press play. And now when we jump on him, we basically defeat him. It's very abrupt, and he just disappears. But yeah, for now, we're actually able to defeat the enemies. And what we'll do next is polish up this whole defeating sequence. So we'll go back to the defeated function. And by the way, you can actually open up this function, not just only by going back to the enemy blueprint, but also just by double-clicking on it. And that way you can just jump straight to the function. So we'll remove the destroy actor for now. And here we'll create a timeline. And we'll call this defeated. And basically a timeline is a really cool thing. As you can see here, there's a timer, once again, like before. So this function can run over several frames and can do all kinds of things. But by default, it's all set to 0. So we'll have to set its settings. And we do that by actually double clicking on it. And this will open up a whole menu for this specific timeline. And here you can see timeline underscore defeated. And for now, there's nothing here. So the first thing we'll do is set the length. So this will be running for 5 seconds, but that's a little bit long for us. And so we'll put it to 0.25. And then next we'll choose the track. And we'll choose a float track. And this will basically give us a graph where we can set points in a float. Firstly, we can name it here and we'll call it alpha. And next we'll create 2 points in this graph. We can do that by right-clicking and pressing add key. And then we'll right-click again and add another key. And now we have these 2 keys. Now, it's not really zoomed into this and it's showing all these other seconds. We want to zoom into this. So we can actually do that by clicking F on the keyboard. And now it's zoomed into it. And you can zoom in and out with the scroll wheel as well and move around with right-click and hold, just like on the other graphs. So let's set the position of each key in the graph. And so here, each one will have 2 values. It's the time and the value. So basically, if we set it to 0, this will start at the beginning of the timeline. And then here, if we set this to 0.25, it will be at the end of the timeline. And right now, the value is some arbitrary one. So we'll put this to 0. So it actually starts from 0. And then it goes up to 1. And once again, we can press F to center the view where we can see both keys. So that's good. So we can compile and save. And we can go back to the event graph by pressing here. And the next thing we'll do is from update, we'll call the function set actor scale 3D. And this will basically set the actor scale. And basically what we'll do, if we just leave this as is, it will immediately be 0 once we defeat the enemy. We can show this here. So we save and compile. And then if I jump on him, he again disappears because the scale became 0. To better show this, we can do 0.1, 0.1, and then 0.1. And then we press play again. And now when I jump on the enemy, see, he's this tiny little thing down there. You see that? Yeah. So we don't want that. What we want to do is not have it instantly happen, but over time. And that's exactly why we create the timeline. And so we have this alpha output now, which we created earlier, and then we'll basically be using that. So what we'll do is we'll call the function lerp vector, because we need a vector right here to connect to. So we'll connect that to here, and then here, see, we have the alpha, so we'll connect that to here too. And basically, we have two vectors now. And what will happen is this is the beginning, and this is the end. And that's why we have this alpha where it goes from 0 to 1 over 0.25 seconds. So it basically lerps from A to B. Lerp basically means like transitioning from one to another. So by default, we'll have 1 for A, and then B will be 0. So it scales down to nothing. So we can save and compile and test that. And now when I jump on an enemy, you see what happens? It's much nicer. But currently the enemy is not getting destroyed. So, as you can see here also in the timeline function, there's a finish output. And this basically runs when the timeline ends. And basically here, we'll just have destroy actor. So it gets destroyed. And now, it's hard to see, but actually basically when we jump on the enemy, the actor also gets destroyed and it's no longer in the scene. This can be a problem, even though he's getting scaled down to 0. If we don't destroy the actor and he stays there, there'll always be code running through the character. And that can cause issues later on with the performance, and the actor may still be attacking you as well, even though he's no longer there, because only his scale has been changed, but he still exists and his AI is still running. So we have to make sure to always destroy the enemy as well. Now, there is one issue we have where it's a little bit hard to jump on the enemy. As you can see, I keep missing. Okay, I got it here. But here it's like kind of hard. Keep sliding off. It's not very accurate. And that's because I'm trying to jump on the enemy's capsule, which is round. And then also the player's capsule is round from the bottom and top. So that doesn't really work well when you're trying to jump or touch something from the top. So it's only doing it in the very top part of the head. And that's not very good. So what we'll do is we'll add a new component. And we want to get a cylinder. And now it's a little bit too big. So we'll be changing the scale to 0.9. And then here, we'll change that also to 0.9. And then this will be 0.125. And then we'll move this up to 40. So it's kind of like a hat for the enemy. And to make sure it doesn't interfere with the navigation, we can scroll down to the navigation section and then open up the advanced setting. And here we toggle this off so it does not affect the navigation. And we save and compile and then press play. And now they all have kind of a hat. And if we jump on the head, it's much easier now. Of course, if we make it much bigger, it will be much more easy, but then it's too easy a little bit, and we don't want that to happen. But of course, it doesn't look good to have it just like this. So another thing we can do, because this is a mesh, we can scroll up to rendering section, and here we have a button called visible. And if we click this off, it will not show the mesh again. And this will basically hide the mesh, and it will still exist, and the collision will still show. So we'll press save and compile and play. And now it's still there, but we just can't see it. and it's made the stomping much easier now. Yeah. Finally, one last thing we want to do is after the player has defeated the enemy, we want to launch the player up. So it's kind of like, Super Mario. When you stomp on an enemy, it will boost you up. So we can actually do it very simply, where after we defeat the enemy, we can call a function called launch character. And here, we'll click on Z override, which will basically override the velocity of the character, and we'll put in the Z value 1000. And this will push the player in the Z direction upwards, because it's a positive number, by 1000 velocity. And we save, compile, press play, and now look what happens when we jump on the enemy. Boing. We get this nice bounce. And this could be used for like gameplay, where you can like kind of bounce on the enemy. Oh, come on. And then get to higher spots. This is very common for games like Mario and other kind of platformers. Yep. And that's basically it for this lesson.